You've done your product research, you've narrowed down 3 different suppliers on Alibaba or AliExpress or wherever you are planning to supply your product from. And now it's time to communicate with these suppliers so that you can then get your finished product into an Amazon FBA fulfillment center. If you're at this point, I'm going to help you in terms of how you communicate with the suppliers, what questions do you ask them, what the overall process should be like in order to help you successfully get your product into Amazon. If you stay to the end of this video, I will be providing a bonus, which will be a very simple, straightforward script that you can use when communicating with any suppliers, whether that be on Alibaba or elsewhere. Let's talk about why this is so important. First and foremost, it builds communication with the supplier. You're going to be communicating with them for a while in order to get your product from idea to Amazon FBA. So you want to make sure that you build that relationship with them. This is the most crucial part of the process when it comes to getting a finalized product. You also want to make sure that you have open and clear communication with them. So to me, this looks like I'm sending a list of questions. I want to make sure that I get my answers in a way that I can clearly decipher. A lot of the times you'll get suppliers who just send maybe one-word responses and you're kind of confused about what their answer is. I personally wouldn't move forward with that supplier because to me that shows kind of how the relationship is going to go along the way. Next, you want to ask a few initial questions, and I think this is the part where a lot of people tend to pause or get stuck on. The type of questions you ask here are important because it'll determine whether or not you even move forward with a certain supplier, and it'll also help save you a lot of time down the line. For example, if you forgot to ask a specific question that is important to getting your product up and running, it could kind of create some issues down the line. But don't worry, because I will be providing a full list of questions that I've asked in the past to make sure that I have a very seamless process with my suppliers. Some examples of these initial questions that you'll be asking are, what is your minimum order quantity? That is a huge question because a lot of the time, if you have a budget, that minimum order quantity, you want to make sure it fits within your budget. If it doesn't, then you will then have to move on to another supplier. So I typically start there. Another question would be, do you offer samples and how long does that take to ship? I do recommend, if this is your first time ordering samples, even if it's not your first time, I still to this day order samples because I want to see what the physical product is like. And it also gives me an idea of how I can improve on it because essentially that's the goal. You want to offer something to your customers that isn't already on Amazon. And sometimes it can be as simple as changing the most simplest thing. Another question that I like to ask is, do you offer custom packaging? If so, how much extra would this be per unit? If you are planning to private label a product, this question is crucial because the last thing you want to do is purchase 1,000 units if you're starting out and you're not able to create a custom label or a custom packaging. So you want to make sure that you get an understanding of what that's going to cost up front. And then you want to also ask, how much is shipping for their minimum order quantity? If you're just starting out, you want to make sure you have a good idea of how much shipping is going to be because this should be allocated as an additional cost. Most of the times you're getting your product from China, so there are some tariffs, some shipping fees that you need to keep in mind. Whether you're shipping by air, land, or sea, which in this case it would be air and sea, the pricing for the shipping on that varies drastically, so you want to get a good idea of how much extra you want to put aside. Some additional questions that I like to ask are you familiar with FBA fulfillment and preparing packages so that the Amazon FBA fulfillment centers can receive them? I know that's a mouthful, but basically what the question is asking is, do you know how to get products from your warehouse to Amazon FBA? That is essentially what you want to know because what you'll do is you'll create labels through your Seller Central account and ship everything or email everything to the supplier so that they can then ship the products to Amazon FBA and you never have to actually touch the inventory. Another question is, what are your payment terms? You want to have a good understanding of, am I paying everything up front before the product is shipped or before the product is even manufactured, or can I pay half and pay the rest once the product has been sent into Amazon FBA? The most common payout terms would be 50-50. If you're working with a supplier that doesn't do it that way, I would just make sure that they have trade assurance so that you can, if you can make sure that you cover all of your tracks. I have a list of additional questions to ask the suppliers, and I will be linking that to the video down below. Super generic, but works every single time for me. As you get into the habit of communicating with suppliers and getting products onto Amazon, you'll know what questions to ask that fit your business in particular. But this list that I've put together is a pretty comprehensive list of questions that you can ask pretty much any supplier. Once you've asked all your questions and they've checked off all your boxes, the next thing you want to do is order a sample of the product. Once you receive the sample, as I mentioned previously, you want to make sure that you can analyze it. You can make sure that there aren't any broken pieces or anything that could potentially show up broken to the customer. You can also, once the sample arrives, provide feedback to the supplier in terms of how you want to improve the product to make it a better offering to customers on Amazon. For example, my most recent product that I found on Amazon that I am currently selling, I noticed that a lot of the competitors were only selling 2 additional pieces with this product. So it's essentially a product where customers can have accessories with this. So I said to my supplier, instead of doing 1 accessory, can we add 2 accessories, and can we change the color of these accessories? So that is in itself a differentiation between my product and my competitors' products. Once you've ordered the sample and you like what you see, the next steps would be submitting your custom designs. So what this looks like, if you are private labeling, is submitting your logo for them to place on the box. If you're including a product insert, I would also have that drafted up. And if you've seen my previous video on Amazon FBA, you know I love to use tools such as Canva and ChatGPT and anything else to make my life easier. But you want to make sure you submit all of those design elements to your supplier before they start manufacturing your products. With submitting the custom designs, they will typically send you dimensions of the boxes or dimensions of the product insert labels that they use, and you want to make sure that you work with those and you communicate with the supplier to make sure that those elements are aligned with what their printers can do. Now, while you're waiting for all of your products to be manufactured and all of the design elements to come together, you can, in the meantime, ask for any creative or any video content that your supplier has so that you can go ahead and start building your Amazon listing while you're waiting for that 2 to 3 week lead time of them to create your initial product order. And so this way you can go ahead and already have the listing on Amazon. This is going to be important because you have to create shipment labels once they are finished manufacturing. In this part of the process, you're not going to be sitting around waiting dead in the water. You're going to be actively creating the listing on Amazon, making sure that everything is ready to go so that all you have to do once they've produced and manufactured all of your items is to send them the labels and ship the product into FBA. And that brings me to the next point of finalizing your purchase order. So when everything is said and done, they're going to ask you for specific labels. This is typically the end of the process when it comes to communicating with suppliers. So if you're able to document everything that it took for you to get up into this point, you can easily look at what parts worked and what didn't, and then duplicate that for products later down the line. Now that I've broken down the essential steps to communicating with suppliers, I'm going to provide a quick little script that I typically use when communicating with any supplier on Alibaba. So I started off by saying, "Hi, my name is," your name, and I represent the company name. We are a US-based company specializing in e-commerce. We're looking to add the product name to our product line, and your product seems to be what we're looking for. I have a few questions. And then here is where I would take from the list of questions that I have added in the description and copy and paste the questions that you feel are essential to what you're trying to do. And lastly, I'll finish off the email or the message with our first order of 200 to 500 units will be a small test order, and in the future, we will be ordering more. We're looking forward to hearing from you soon. Thank you, and then your name. And the reason why I add that last part is that is a part of building that relationship, that rapport, to show that you're interested. However, a lot of the times, if you're just getting started, you're not looking to purchase 10,000 plus units. So you want to make it known that you are looking for their minimum order quantity, and that's what you want to start with. Well, I hope this video was helpful to whoever is just starting out. I personally believe that there's no better time to start than now. And if this is something that you've determined is how you are going to create financial freedom, passive income, then hopefully this helped you. If you have any questions about anything that I mentioned in the video, or if you would like for me to elaborate on anything else a part of the Amazon FBA process, please leave a comment down below. I do have a few extra videos coming in the future, so be sure to stay tuned for those.